Hey, thriving launchers. Today we have a really special episode for you. When I first started my entrepreneurial pursuit, trying to start my own business was scary, and I always seemed to have one foot in and one foot out. And maybe you have this in your own business, or you have it in some area of your life where you're not fully committed and you're not fully getting those results. Well, today I want to share with you part of my own journey with that and bring on a very special guest to talk to you about how to burn those boats and fully commit to having the results that you really want in your life fearlessly. Welcome to Thriving Launch with Louise Congdon and Kamala Chambers, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all.
5 days a week, we bring you different segments to inspire you to live a life of freedom. We interview the leading experts in the field of business, health, and love. Be sure to check out Training Tuesdays, where we give you a clear action plan to grow your own business.
Do you have a product or service that you would like to sell online? Or maybe you've been thinking about it, but you're reserved to do it because you need a website, you need complicated systems, and you need to spend money? Well, I've created a completely free course that teaches you how to use Facebook in a purely organic way. This means no ads and no money are needed. You can use Facebook completely free. So head on over to thrivinglaunch.com. Opt into my Profit from Social Media course. I'm going to teach you the free methods to using Facebook to make money today.
Our guest today is Bill Wooditch. He's a keynote speaker and a peak performance business training coach. He's the owner of a $100 million company and a best-selling author. We're so excited to have him on the show talking about some pretty great stuff. Bill, welcome to the show. Are you feeling ready to launch?
I feel ready. It is an honor and a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you.
It's really great to have you here. And I know that you do so much in your life. You do so much in your work. And the thing that we're excited to talk with you about today is being the CEO of your life, being a leader. And I'd love to hear what that means to you. What does it mean to live your life as a leader every day?
Well, let's compare and contrast two things. Let's compare life and existence. I think that some of us choose existence because it's safe, and we think it's safe, and we think there's security in the safe, and the others choose life, and there's a risk-reward proposition when it comes to life. If you're going to live your best life, you're going to live right now, not connected to the past, not held hostage by the past, and not looking so far into the future where you're not living in the present. And the primary responsibility of the CEO is to build shareholder value, to create value for the shareholders. And who's the bigger and most important shareholder in the value proposition of your life? It's you. So you've got to take the personal responsibility, the accountability, and you've got to learn the way to become the CEO of your life.
Absolutely love it. Go ahead, Louise.
Yeah, well, what that really reminds me of a lot is something that Jack Canfield said on our interview, something that Anthony Robbins has said a lot in his talks as well. And it's something that I hear a lot from different people around taking responsibility for the results that you have in your life.
Yes. And I think I've experienced this, and I'm sure you have as well, that you have to own, this is one of the most important things I can say, you have to own the discipline in the process. You cannot always own the result. You can influence the result, but you have to own the process. That means your habits, the discipline that forges and enforces the habit, and then doing everything possible to affect a favorable outcome. Because there are some things, frankly, beyond our control, where there could be politics involved, or it could be other outside forces extraneous to us where we do not have the control. But we have to influence our habits, our accountability, our responsibility. We have to first look in the mirror and say, if it's to be, it's up to me. That's ownership.
What we're talking about here, what do you think the key benefits are of living in this way?
It's like an analogy of a boat and a dock. And I was recently on the Steve Harvey show, and I gave this analogy for the viewers. the boat of opportunity is leaving every second. So picture a dock, and there's a dock, and there's a lot of people on that dock. It's crowded. It's the dock where people think it's safe, where people look for comfort, where people aren't challenged because they are risk averse. And there are two big buckets of fear in people. One is the fear of loss. The other is the fear of change. And those are socially learned fears. So we crave opportunity, or we want opportunity, but we're resistant to take the risk to get that reward. So that boat of opportunity is always leaving. Well, some people are on the dock and they're frustrated, and they want to jump on that boat of opportunity. So they get right up to the edge of the dock. They have their one foot on the dock. They have their toes on the boat, and that boat's always leaving. So you know where they end up if they don't make a choice? They end up in the water. And all there is box jellyfish, sharks. It's cold. It's nasty. You got to make a choice. Get to the edge of that dock, and you got to jump. And you jump when you're prepared, when you know there's risk, when you're willing to pay the price to get the gain. And the boat of opportunity isn't always a safe harbor. I mean, you're going to run into waves. You're going to run into pirates, maybe. You're going to hit rocks. But that's the proposition that living life is all about. You've got to get out there and live, not just exist. Choose life. The species does not support standing still and stasis. It's all about choosing life and moving forward.
One of the things that you're talking about brings up for me when one of my coaches said to me, Luis, you have to burn your boats. You have to make a decision. And this was when I was choosing to go into the entrepreneurial pursuit, and Kamala had been pushing me, but I was still kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and I was still going online looking for potential jobs that I could take. I was working with Kamala, but I was sending applications to jobs because I didn't know if this was really going to work, and I wasn't really sure if I was cut out for it. I had complete trust in Kamala's ability to kind of coach me and take us to the next place of running our business, but I wasn't sure if I personally had the skills, the ability, and the certain innate traits that are required of someone when they want to become an entrepreneur. I think that as many people as want it, there are many people out of that group that just don't have the certain kind of intrinsic drive and characteristics, because us entrepreneurs, we're constantly having to take those big dives and those big leaps. And I didn't really know if I wanted to take that. And my coach said to me, Luis, you've got to burn your boats. You've made it on the island. You're starting to do this business thing. But as long as you're there thinking about those other boats and you're getting on there and kind of toying around with the idea of leaving this island, you'll never really have the full success that you deserve and that you're cut out for. And after that call, I said, okay, I'm burning all these boats. I stopped looking for jobs. I stopped responding to anybody who responded to me with my resume. And I just decided, that's it. I can't do this anymore. I've made a decision, and I will not have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. What do you say to your coaching clients? Because I know that you work with people that are in all sorts of levels of success. You're somebody who's had an incredible amount of success yourself. So I know that you're seeing people who are kind of in the higher tier of where they're at in all these different areas of their life. But all of us come to that point where we have to burn that boat and we're scared. So what do you say to people when they're coming to you and they're saying, hey, I really want to be successful in my business and I want to take it to the next level, and you're noticing that they're 1 foot in and 1 foot out?
I just have to say first that you burning your boats was the happiest decision that you've ever brought to my life. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
After the show, I'm going to get your address. I'm going to send you my book, Always Forward. And the proceeds for Always Forward go to the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. So it supports the U.S. military. And I'm very, very honored to do that. And in the book, you're going to find a section that's in alignment with what you said. And it's Burn Your Boats. The Greeks and the Spaniards, when they attacked an island, they burnt the boats to show the men ultimate commitment. So for you, that means this. That means immersion, and that means investment, and that means total immersion, not a waffling. That's a key and critical success indicator. And it's what you said, it's some people want it, but you've got to need it. You really have to need it. And I remember burning my boats because I didn't want to go back where I was before. And I thought the only way is forward. And to do that, I had to take all forms of, quote, security, unquote, and really burn it. So when I talk with people about fear, which is your question about how do I talk with them about fear, I want them to understand the difference between fear and danger. I want them to know that danger is imminent threat from man, insect, reptile. But fear is generally that part of the imagination that its tentacles can wrap around us and keep us right where we are because we go to a worst case scenario. So we need to really take a dispassionate look at what fear really is, ask what would happen, what's the worst thing that could happen if I do this, and then take intelligent risk that we have to line out and use the top part of our brain, that neofrontal cortex, to actually think of steps through. It helps to get out of the emotional stem of the brain and get up to the top part of the brain and say, what's really going on here? What's the downside? And then what is it that I really have to have? That's really part of the process of coaching.
I would love to hear from you. What's one way we know that we're still clinging on to that boat and that we haven't burned it all the way? What's one way that we can see it, and what's one thing that we can do today to make that change?
And before you answer that, Bill, Kamala, something that you said that Bill said earlier that I really liked is he talked about immersion. And that's something that definitely for me is super important, is to be immersed. Learning a language is probably the most kind of accurate way to describe that experience of immersion for me, because, growing up, I spoke Spanish, and then later I lost all of my Spanish and came to the United States being adopted, and I was immersed in English, and then I actually forgot my Spanish. And up until I went to Costa Rica and then went back to Colombia, up until that time, I never really fully was able to grasp my language again until I got fully immersed. And then once I did, I was able to kind of overcome those fears head on, and I didn't have a choice but to move forward. And I just really love that word that you were using about immersion.
Well, you just mentioned a couple of key phrases that will answer the question. It's language and it's self-talk. And if you are still clinging, you are using language like this. If it doesn't work out, I will. If this doesn't work, I will. I think I want to do this. So now you're dabbling. You're not immersed. You're just dabbling. You're wishing. You're hoping. Wish and hope will not cash the checks of result. And you've got to look in the mirror. And sometimes people look in the mirror and they see denial and delusion. They see what they want. But you've got to look in the mirror, and you've got to use both your head, which drives, and your gut, which governs, to ask the question, am I immersed? Am I fully committed? Or am I just kidding myself and hoping and wishing? If you've got plan B, you haven't burned your boat. And I can argue that with entrepreneurs, and I do. You got to have a plan B. If you have a plan B, that soon becomes your plan A. You got to be totally invested. You got to be totally immersed.
Here's my next question to follow up with that, Bill, and it's something actually I'm going to get real kind of vulnerable here with you guys, with you listener. I'm going to get vulnerable with you because I know that you tune in on a regular basis, and we've gotten to know each other. So I was earlier just talking about burning my boats, and I know that you've gone through that experience in your life at some point, and it's a wonderful feeling to make that level of commitment. But what do you say to your clients? And again, to get vulnerable, I've burned that boat with our business, but quite often I have this nagging feeling like maybe I'm not quite good enough, or maybe I'm going to fail, or maybe I'm not going to get the results that the other people around me are getting that I'm just amazed by. And it's the goals that I'm looking at other people and going, oh, I want to get there. They're having these astounding $100,000, $200,000 months, or whatever it might be. For me, it's $100,000. That would be, for me, that's like, oh my gosh, I really want that. And I see people around me, and one of my coaches is doing that. And I go to work and I go, man, I don't feel like I'm going to get that result. Oh, and it's a voice and a sensation that I have inside me that I know is taking away energy, inspiration, and it's taking away my ability to get that result because there's that doubt. And I have a very difficult time knowing what to do to engage that voice.
First of all, forgive yourself for being human because we all have that voice. So it's the level that you can turn, it's the volume you have to turn down in the voice. And here's how you do that. You have to understand that the external measurement of success by comparing to other people is a relative standard of comparison. And it's a zero-sum game, Luis, because you're always looking to compare yourself by lack and want instead of appreciation and gratitude. First for your health, then for the ability to actually burn your boat and do something like live your life of value. So I think that the first thing is to measure success in your own way. And then it's liberating to know that you do have shadows of doubt, but you can use the fuel from that doubt in a positive way to recoup your energy stores and say, this is normal. This is part of being human. This is what it is. Now let me just keep stepping forward, because the more action you actually take, the less that fear has a chance to percolate through your brain.
That's so beautiful. I want to talk a little bit more about action. What are the things that you would say, go out and do right now to really apply this today?
Well, I think this is very important. When I was coming up through my career, an external observation one that sometimes we can't see the things we do, but others have to point them out. And they said, the difference with you, Wood, is that you're actually able to think something and then do it in a very, very short period of time. So you're following your thought with a very decisive action. This is the key. The shorter the distance between your thought, a deliberate thought, one that's well thought out, and a decisive action, the greater your chance of success in the endeavor. The first thing I think you need to do is go back to the ancient Greeks, go to the Oracle of Delphi and Socrates, and know yourself. That's the first part. Before action, you've got to know, and this is crucial for your listeners, you've got to know what it is that you really want, you really must have, what it takes to get it, and what you're willing to give up to get it. That's it right there. Then your action's going to follow from there.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love that. And I think knowing what you want is such a big piece of it that people often overlook. They look at what they don't want more than what they really do want in the very core of who they are.
Stay with me on that. People always know what they fear, but they rarely know what they truly want.
Absolutely.
Something really beautiful about what you just said, Bill, about people know what they're afraid of, but don't fully know what they truly want. That one's a really big one for me, because I know that growing up in my life, I've had certain kind of teachings that have been handed down to me that I've adopted, through kind of just submersion of being indoctrinated by other people around me. And I know, for example, growing up, I didn't date very much. And then at one point I got to this place where I really wanted to have a girlfriend. I wanted to date. I wanted to fall in love. And I had to become okay with the idea that I wanted to experience an intimate relationship with a partner, and that all the stuff that came with that, because I didn't think it was okay for me to want that. And then later on, I decided, hey, I want to make a really good living. Like, I'm tired of being paid $10 an hour and working really hard. And yes, I appreciate the work that I'm doing now at $10 an hour, but it's very hard to live off of this. And then confronting the fears around that, like, okay, well, what if I started making $1,000 a week or $3,000 a week, and then becoming okay with that and saying, what I really want is I want financial abundance and financial freedom, and I'm afraid that that's not okay. And I really want this, and it would feel so great. And getting in touch with that desire and really saying, this is what I really want, and it's okay for me to want that, that is another level of burning those boats for me. Because once I got clear with that, it became very easy for me to hone in and do the things necessary to have those results or those experiences in my life.
That's a great point. You have to have laser clarity, and you have to be all right with the sacrifice, what it takes, and the feeling that this is okay to want more for myself, to provide lifestyle options for me and my loved ones. That's got to be okay.
This is all such great stuff, and you've given us so many gems to walk away with. Before we close here, is there any last little treasure that you want to leave us with?
I'll leave you with a pen, okay? I'm going to give you a metaphorical pen. I want your listeners to know this. Every day, you are writing the story of your life. The ink is your thoughts. the bold swaths you make, the bold strokes you make on each page, get more bold every day when you burn your boat, move forward, and own the maxim. If it's to be, it's up to you. Make it a story that you'd want others to learn from, to read and prosper from. That's legacy, and to me, that's about contribution, collaboration, and the furtherance of the species. And that really defines my purpose.
Bill, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thriving Launchers, thanks for tuning in. I invite you all to go out today and look for a way to burn your boats down. It's been so great to have you all tuning in, and keep thriving, everyone.
You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there.
Be sure to tune into the next episode where we're going to be talking with Kamanzi Constable. He's an international speaker and a best-selling author, and he's going to be talking about how to bust through our fears to get to that next level of success. If you've enjoyed this episode today, be sure that you're subscribed on iTunes and that you leave us a rating, because it helps. Thanks, everyone.